I personally have never done one, but in Spanish, a tanda means like a bundle or a batch or something along those lines, and essentially, it's a way of saving um, amongst other people. So let's say for 10 weeks, you put $100 down, you know what I'm saying? Something along those lines, with like 8 people. So you guys all draw random numbers, and whichever uh, number you get is the week you get that amount of money. So like let's say there's 8 of you, you get $700 because you're putting in $100, right? So it wouldn't be 800. Now you might be wondering, what the hell does that have to do with me or games or the podcast or anything? Well, on social media everywhere, mainly on Facebook because Facebook is a goddamn cesspool. There are people trying to speed up like the process of a tanda. And the way they've been doing it, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it as well, but it's like this circle hexagonal chart that has a person's name in the middle and however many branching other people in the rest of the hexagon slash web or whatever you want to call it. The person in the middle ends up getting like whatever money that they recruited other people to be in, and in the outer circle of the middle are however many names, and then that name becomes the next middle name, and so on and so forth, and that's how that web of BS is sold to stupid people. So the difference between an actual tanda, a system, in which you are pretty much locked in to save for however many weeks, depending on how many people there are, and whatever has been going around on Facebook is pretty much a pyramid scheme in a different format. They just made it a hexagon slash web. So I know it's random as hell, but I needed to get all of that frustration out, because seeing how dumb people are and actually falling for it, and then asking other people like, hey, yo, like, come give me all this fucking money, and then you could go and trick somebody else to grab a lot of fucking money. And I know this is all due to everyone hurting and not having a job at the moment. I know a lot of people don't have a job at the moment. And normally I wouldn't hate on somebody else's hustle, but that's not even a hustle. It's literally a scam. And people are so damn stupid to not see it themselves, like starting this week, because like last week is when I saw them most predominantly. Starting this week, you didn't see them anywhere. Not on Twitter, not on Facebook, not on anywhere. It's because people caught on and knew for a fact, like, oh, I'm being a fucking dumbass. Anywho, now that we have all that out of the way, welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Punched Podcast, where yours truly has a lot to say about nothing. And this week has been a whole lot of nothing. I know I keep updating you guys on like the stuff that I watch and play and all that stuff, but I don't think I've been outside this last week at all. Maybe just to get coffee, but that's definitely not anywhere near to what I'm used to. So at my job, I mentioned that it is predominantly family-based, with the exception of like one of our employees. And I've been taking a lot less shifts because they actually have families to feed type deal. And because I haven't been working as much, I don't need to go outside as much. And even when I am there, it's all like pickup orders and stuff, so I'm like mainly inside anyway. And it's not like I would be outside at all, but I definitely get a lot less groceries for the entirety of the restaurant now. We definitely get a lot less stuff, and there's a lot less upkeep now that it is only to-go stuff. Damn, bro, I just choked up there. I really need to learn how to breathe during my sentences there, I suppose. Like, literally choking on nothing. But yeah, speaking of nothing, all I pretty much have for this week, aside the crap that I've been, watching and playing, is a lot of observations of the current climate. Climate isn't the word. The current mood of social media, the current state of everyone on social media, because everyone's getting mad at everything. Like, the most heinous things are what people are focusing their attention to when there's like a constant stream of news coming at us, like in our face. Now, not all of it is something we should just take for straight up fact. I mean, do your research. Don't just take one news source as a source. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not what I'm trying to talk about. So, like, people all over Twitter, ignoring all the news that I'm talking about, are getting so ridiculously pissed at each other that I actually saw a bigger streamer talk about how someone in their chat said that their name made them hungry because their name has to do with food. And this big streamer was like, so I'm here to win. I don't care about your small talk. I don't care about all this other crap, because they were playing a competitive shooter. Now, I get the type of frustration, because when I'm in the zone and I'm gaming, especially in like first person shooters, I'm like, yo, let's do work. Let's do what we gotta do to flip and win. But this comment was entirely harmless, so much so that it could have been ignored and nothing would have come from it. Like, I feel like this was blown up out of proportion to make content out of, with a very genuine sense of being annoyed. And that's like not even the half of it. Like on streamer Twitter, more than anything, like people are bringing up the booby stuff again because a certain big time streamer, quote unquote, accidentally flashed her stream and then wasn't banned. Whether or not it was on purpose or an accident or whatever the heck happened, like, it happened. I do feel like Twitch should be fair in banning her, but I also feel like the reaction of many people is much more disgusting than viewing someone's titty. So, like, not only is there a bunch of hate, you know, being thrown at this streamer who I genuinely don't give a crap about, but not only is there all this hate, they are also sharing the clip in which she showed her titty. And it's like, dude, no matter what points y'all are trying to make, no matter how fair you're trying to make it for dudes, you're being that much worse by sharing this woman's titty. It's like all sense of self-awareness is definitely going on social media more than anything. And it makes me wonder what it's going to be like once we're all allowed to be outside again. Because if people have so much pent-up energy that they're making random drama on Twitter, then I can only imagine how it's gonna be once people are allowed out again. That's pretty redundant. It's kind of wild, actually, how many people are so damn nonchalant about just being outside, like going to chill with peeps or going to see someone, or not following the rules by just being considerate of other people, by like just going out for necessities. And I guess I'm guilty because, like, coffee, right? But coffee's coffee. I can make coffee here at home, and I normally do, but it tastes different when you get it from other places. Like, let's be real here. But where I'm going with this is, I was doing laundry the other day, because, like, well, that's an essential necessity. That's a necessity, something that needs to be done, and I don't have a washer and dryer in my house, so I go down the street to the laundromat. It's, like, literally only a block away, and that 2-second commute actually makes it better, but I digress. On my way back from putting my stuff into the wash, I had seen that my neighbor was, you know, chilling outside and just drinking hard. So when I went to come back from, like, switching my stuff over to the dryer, this man was straight up passed out, face in the dirt, like a rock had scratched his forehead, and he was just straight up smiling. I'd seen the case that he had is pretty much like one of them half boxes with like 4 cases of tall boy 6-packs almost, or something along those lines. It was a lot of beer, and he also had like one of them like small flasks. But this guy was straight up gone. Like I said, face in the dirt, actually flipping smiling, and it didn't seem like he even knew where the fuck he was. So my first thought was, holy shit, I just watched this guy keel over and die, because when I was walking over from the end of the block, he slowly went on over and just toppled over right into, like, the rock-infested dirt. So my second thought was, alright, I gotta move this body, or I gotta help this guy if he's still alive. So I go up to him, I walk up to him, and I'm like, yo, bro. Yo, and I've talked to this guy a couple times, he's my neighbor. I don't mean to be talking shit or anything, I don't think too highly of the guy, but he's also never been like a straight up asshole to my grandmother or anything. So I decided to help the guy, you know? I'm snapping in his face. I'm trying to like get his attention. I'm trying to like get that glazed look in his eyes to be like present, you get me? And there's very slight glimpses of him looking over at me and then like laughing his ass off and being like, "Oh, I'm good, bro, you're good." So I'm under the impression that this guy is on drugs as well as on all this fucking alcohol that's on the floor everywhere, like all these, open cans and the one open bottle. And straight up, I wasn't even thinking about Corona. Like, you probably shouldn't go out in public and like touch anyone at all, period. But this guy was like passed the fuck out. Anyway, he's resisting me. He's saying like, "Nah, dude, I'm good. Like, yo, bro, I'm okay." So I like knock on his door because I'm not about to let this dude lay down in the fucking alley. Who I think is his ma ends up answering the door with who I think is his younger sister. And they're like, "Yo, what's going on? What happened?" I'm like, "Yo, this guy's drunk as fuck." And I thought he was dead when I came up. Like, I can help you by bringing him inside, but whatever it is you decide to do, we cannot have him laying out in the alley. So the lady agreed. She was like, "Yeah, help me," and all this other stuff. Like, you can tell she was very concerned for this dude. But he's fighting me the entirety of the time. He's like, "Nah, bro, I'm okay." Like, he's just like very lackadaisically pushing me away and stuff, but he's weak as fuck. You can definitely tell because of the amount of alcohol and whatever the hell else he was on. Like, all of his motions were hella sluggish, almost like slow motion. So rather than, just spending all my time trying to mess with him, trying to convince him to go inside, I, like, literally pick him up by his, like, under his arms, and I lay him on, like, the concrete of his stairs. So he's sitting up. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll be okay," all this other stuff. And the lady's like, He'll be fine here. I can take care of him. It's all right." I come into my house. I had spent however much time my clothes needed to be in the dryer, and I was like, "Man, it's about to be up. Maybe I should just go back out, help this guy, and then go get my clothes out." But when I went back inside, I went and got my brother as well, because I was like, "Yo, this dude's pretty drunk." And it's like, I can definitely move him, but it'd be a lot easier if you and me did it. And at first my brother is like, "What the hell's going on? What are you talking about? Like, I don't want to go outside to touch anybody right now. Fucking this virus going around and shit." But my brother, he has a big heart, and I explained to him the situation. I was like, "Yo, dude, I was walking down the alley. I thought he was dead, all this other shit. And, there's all the beer cans, and I think he's on drugs." And my brother just, like, looks down and shakes his head. He's like, "Yeah, man, we've all been there." So both me and my brother, go outside, and this lady's talking to him, and he is fallen over in the dirt again. He had already been bleeding, like, around, like, his temple area because, like, a rock had scratched him. But this time there's, like, dirt in the fucking, like, in his head. And I'm like, "Ah, dude, like, this is bad. We gotta get him inside," type deal. So, like, me and my brother, hoist him up, grabbing him from under his arms. And from then on, he was like, okay, it's like he understood because he had these two fucking strangers literally lifting him the fuck up. And he walked inside with, like, the help of his sister. And after that, not like this matters or anything, I did end up getting my clothes, and it was awesome because I was like, all right, cool, fresh, warm laundry. But I think it was that much more better because I had, like, just helped someone. I was like, yes. Like, the laundry was my reward for doing a good deed. Is that stupid? I don't know if that sounds stupid. I'm very happy with, like, simple things. But yeah, this dude is just so selfish and not caring about what's going on publicly. So I wouldn't even say unaware because he definitely knows what's going on, just didn't give a shit. So much so that I even, like even my brother risked his health to possibly, help this guy. And I don't know. I don't think it's as contagious as they're making it seem, but I would rather be safe than sorry because of how variant the symptoms are, you get me? I don't even know if that's, like, the right way to say it, but it affects people so differently that I would just rather be safe than sorry. And it's like, I'm definitely glad that this guy's okay. I haven't seen him since. I actually haven't seen my neighbors at all since. But also, low-key, like, fuck that guy for doing that to his mom, and fuck that guy for making me have to do that for him, you get me? It's like, how inconsiderate and how unresponsible can you be? Irresponsible? Unresponsible? Not responsible can you be, bro? Like, being that devoid of consideration should be a crime. Like, lime crime. Like, yo, like, lime and mayo, that should also be a fucking crime. I know that has nothing to do with anything, but this is what I mean by people being stuck inside for so damn long that they get mad at little shit. Like, I really dislike whenever I'm not the one getting the groceries for the house, because it's like, they'll get stupid shit like mayo with lime. That's disgusting, bro. I'm sorry. I like lime on everything. I'm Mexican. But not fucking mayo, bro. Lucky enough, I did go, again, like this past week. This past week, come to think of it, I have gone outside. It's like, the more I sit here and think about it, the more that I sit here and like do whatever. It's just more that I haven't had as much responsibility these last couple weeks, and that's why it feels like I haven't been outside. But when I think about it, I actually have been, to like take care of stuff. Anywho, I'm saying that I got lucky this last time that we went grocery shopping, because one of our taquerias, and I don't mean mine as in like my family's, but Chicagoland's taquerias is being shut down because one of the employees actually died from COVID. And that's sad in itself, right? People dying sucks. But this is a business that provides tortillas for so many different restaurants, for households, for even retail sale type deal, like at Walmart and junk. Like the supermarket stuff. And luckily there's a second location. It's not like they'll be gone entirely. It's not like we'll be entirely devoid of tortillas. But that's still scary. That's still like a hit. And on top of that, because they go everywhere, that makes me a little, nervous, like, finger in the collar type deal. But yeah, they close that down, or they're going to close it down for the next 2 weeks and do some deep cleaning from like a third party. Like, they won't just be cleaning it themselves. And I don't know. I hope that that's enough. I hope that, we get a stronger stream of tortillas again pretty soon. And this is just, kind of reading off the article type deal, but the employees will be paid for the next 2 weeks, fortunately. And it is only the one employee who had complications and then unfortunately died. Dang, dude, this has been kind of a bummer of a podcast, hasn't it? But I'm not even done yet, because like we have a lot of junk still to talk about. I feel like I've just been rambling about nonsense this episode, but I feel like really great about it. I don't know, maybe we finally hit our stride, you get me? Like, I think we finally got the groove of all this going. Well, anyway, superhero stuff, right? Or video game stuff. Superhero stuff? Well, real quick, you guys know about all of the delays happening currently with video games and movies more than anything, like, because there's no possible way for us to go out to see a new film at the moment. So all the big name studios are like, yeah, let's push this down a ways, let's do this, move that around. Predominantly I'm looking at like the Spider-Man stuff. Not entirely sure if it's 2021 or 2022. I'm leaning more toward 2022, but they're supposed to be releasing the Morbius movie, Venom 2, and Spider-Man 3 in March, June, and then July of whatever year they come out in. So not only do we get 2 villain films, we get the Spider-Man movie, we get the superhero movie that is connected to those fucking villains, and it's super dope. Like, the only thing that I'm kind of not necessarily disheartened by, but like about is the name for the second Venom. It's called Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I'm excited as hell to see, Cletus Cassidy. I'm excited as hell to see Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy. But with a title like that, I feel like they're gonna hang on to the weird quirkiness of the first Venom movie when they should just be gunning it for that R rating, bro. I will say, I think we're lucky that these will still be releasing in theaters, though. Like, I know that studios need the money that comes from being released in theaters, but they also have, and they as in like studios in general, I'm talking as if like there's a specific they, it's a generalized they. Anywho, they've been releasing a ton of new films like on VODs, like on video on demand type deal, which I don't necessarily mind. I feel like there are definitely certain films I would rather watch at home than at a theater, but I don't want to not have the option of going to a movie theater. So I'm hoping that stuff with like the release of The Invisible Man and Trolls and what was that movie called? Bloodshot. And there are a few other films that had limited theatrical releases that went to VOD as soon as shit hit the fan. I'm just hoping that it doesn't become the norm. You get me? I like the Netflix films. I like the Hulu originals. I like Amazon's original stuff and their movies and stuff as well. But there's something about going to an actual theater and experiencing cinema amongst like even like shitty people, like having someone talk in a theater, that's part of the experience. Having a perfectly still crowd, that's part of the experience. And it may not be as comfortable as it is at home. I mean, there's a lot of theaters that have like the recliners now, mine being one of them. But sometimes nothing beats just being at home, just laying down or sitting down in your favorite gaming chair. Gamer chair. Yeah, I'm purposely making noise and like, being ugly about it. But yeah, I think this is a perfect time to bring up like the movies that I've been watching, and obviously Westworld and stuff. I guess I could talk about Valorant. I feel like I've said enough about it on stream, but like I'll give you guys an earful here in a second. Or should we just do that first? Yeah, let's talk about Valorant first. I was lucky enough to get a key for the game, which if you guys don't know about it, it's essentially anime CSGO. So it's like CSGO where you still have to buy your weapons and junk, and instead of buying like specific types of grenades, you buy charges for that specific character's abilities. So everybody has access to all the different types of weapons, but not everybody has access to all the different types of abilities. And that's kind of like an Overwatch aspect almost. So you combine the shooting of CSGO with the characterization of something along the lines of like Overwatch or TF2, amp up the anime aspect of it, the anime aesthetic to it, and you get Valorant, which I have no idea what it means. I've been saying that we're just dudes ranting about our valor vigorously, but that's like a dumbass joke. I want to know what the hell it actually means, you feel? And I want to know how they spent the time in naming the sections of the map, because when you walk across any section of the map, in one of the bottom corners, it'll let you know where you're at. So like, let's say like A long or C short or B mid type deal. There's one map that I'm thinking in specifically, but those are essentially the callouts that you hear in the game. And the amount of times that I have heard heaven is fucking annoying, bro. I think it's cool as hell that they named like top and bottom things like heaven and hell type deal. I genuinely think it gives it that much little bit of flair, but the way people are calling it out, it's like they're too eager to say the names of the places and end up not calling out where the people are at. So not only is it CSGO shooting with characterization from like Overwatch, there's also the zero game sense from people in CSGO, and there's the raging toxicity of the people in Overwatch. The game itself is dope as hell. I have a lot of fun with it. It makes me be on my toes with my aim. It's challenging, it's fun, it's cool to see the counters of different characters and how your character will counter a specific person, or how you'll have to outsmart them or play a certain angle for you to get the advantage. But everyone, I mean everybody, like even people that fucking suck, will talk smack to you. Everyone has this certain type of complex because they've played CSGO for like 2 hours. They think that they could tell everybody what to do and what to buy and where to go. And yeah, the voice capability's there. The text chat is there, but that's to communicate about the game, not about how you think we should be playing the game. It's just like, just do callouts. There have already been several times where I've just straight up told people like, just stop talking, bro. And more often than not, that does work. I mean, I'm not good or anything, but I do let the scores speak for themselves, you get me? And I also never understood why people would obsess over the way someone else is playing the game when you should be focusing on you so that you could be that much better. Luckily, you can turn that all off. I mean, you can't turn the text chat off, but you could turn the voice chat off, so you don't need to listen the constant berating of, like, all of these jerks. But you can still see it no matter what. Like, if they take the time to, like, say some stuff, I just kind of brush it off to the side, if I'm gonna be honest. Because when it comes down to it, like, the most toxic people are the younger people playing the game. With the exception of, like, my very first game that was, like, populated with a bunch of, like, 13-year-olds. It was funny because they were all asking each other, like, their age and stuff, and I don't know, I felt super old amongst these, like, mini gamers. And so, like, no surprise, I mean, I was on top of the leaderboard. These were kids, for gosh sakes. They were all excited and stuff. They were like, wow, golly, that's crazy. This guy's rocking a Yankee with no brim, all this other stuff. And then they tried saying something to the dude that was at the bottom of the leaderboard. And I was like, hey, man, it's chill, all this other stuff. And then they kind of, like, understood it. They were like, hey, yeah, you know what? It is okay, all this other junk. So I guess my point is like, if you come across, like, really dickish people, like, killing with kindness, even if it is a video game, has actually proven to be a valuable method of dealing with these, like, horrible, minuscule, self-esteemed people. So if you can deal with the combined toxicity of both communities of, like, the CS:GO and Overwatch peeps, you'll do fine. I'm pretty sure you'll like this game. I'm having a lot of fun, despite any of the lameness that I have encountered. Hardly ever do I feel like it's unfair. I think CS:GO has a little bit more of, like, a hardcore Twitch spray pattern type deal. And I keep saying type deal, I apologize. But just because Valorant is a little less hardcore doesn't make it hardcore. I've enjoyed all the time that I've put into it, and if that sounds like something you're into, and you can deal with the community, then I highly, highly suggest it if you end up getting a key. Because, I mean, you only get a key if you watch Valorant streams. So watch my stream, twitch.tv/. You already know. Moving on to the last couple of things of the podcast, I just wanted to say that The Last of Us, unfortunately, was postponed indefinitely, but unfortunately due to a leak of the fucking plot of the game. Or, I don't know how much of the plot has been leaked. I haven't seen anything yet. I don't want to see anything. I've blocked so many, like, people specifically that spoil things and aren't necessarily aware of it. And I've straight up blocked so many phrases to ensure that I get to experience this game the way it's meant to be experienced. So luckily, we get that in June, and I think Ghost of Tsushima comes out in July. I don't know the specific dates, but I know they come out 1 month after the other. I honestly thought it was going to be a hell of a lot worse. I didn't think we were going to get either of these games this year. But now I feel like I have something to look forward to, and I'm hella excited again for The Last of Us 2. I'm on that hype again. So, the things that I have watched this week. Aside the last few episodes of Westworld, there's only one left, and I'm hella excited for the season finale. We'll end with Westworld. I also watched It Chapter 2, which is a god-awful movie, and we'll get to that in a moment. And then Midnight Gospel. If you have not seen Midnight Gospel, and you're tired of hearing me speak, you don't want to listen to the rest of this podcast, just go watch that right now. That's an actual good podcast with amazing visuals. It's a show about a dude that goes into other dimensions and has a space cast, quote unquote space cast, and interviews beings within those random dimensions he travels to. And all of the topics have to do with, like, life and death and acceptance, learning how to feel yourself out, coming to terms with just, like, our mortality in general. It felt like that's what the entirety of the first season is. It's like it's kind of working towards the acceptance of death. And that might sound very gloomy. That might sound like a huge bummer, but it's not. It's very liberating, and that whole acceptance of stuff that you can't, like, control, and in this case, in the show, more often than not, it being death, you get this sense of, well, or at least I got this sense of, like, yo, everything's gonna be chill. It's all right. That's a part of life. And after I'd finished the whole first season, I felt like I had a pat on my back, like, it's all right, man. It's all right. And I haven't even touched on the visuals. Like, the main character's like this pink dude with, like, almost a sombrero. It's not, but it's like a wizard hat, I guess you could say. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. It's quirky, it's kooky. It has Duncan Trussell voicing the main character of Clancy, and it's done or created by Pendleton Ward, which is the dude who did Adventure Time, if you don't know. and you can definitely tell. Because even down to some of the humor that's in the show, I mean, obviously the art style and the aesthetic, but a lot of the humor very much reminds me of the stuff that we saw in Adventure Time. And it's one of those very few shows that you can just put on in the background and listen to the conversations to. I mean, it's definitely a show, but it's done in a podcast style format, so you don't even necessarily have to pay attention to the visuals, even though they are beautiful, even though they are like mind bending. The colors are vibrant and gorgeous, but very much in a VHS style of like haziness. I love it so dang much. I really wish I had more to say about it. I really wish I could say more about it, but I feel like I already gave enough of an explanation for if you're interested in that type of stuff. Like, that's what sold me, so hopefully I sold y'all, because that show helped me come to terms with a lot of stuff. But not everything I've seen this last week was good. Not everything that I've seen was worth watching, dude. Like, okay, so in 2017 or something like that, they did an It remake. Then at the end of the It remake, they're like, Chapter 1, and then everyone was super hyped up and excited for It Chapter 2, which came out last year. It's on HBO right now, and I'm super lucky to have HBO. It's how I flip and watch Westworld. But in between waiting for Westworld and after finishing Midnight Gospel, I was like, what the heck do I do with myself? I've seen Tiger King, I've seen McMillions. There are no lengthy documentary series for me to, like, you know, zone out to, and I'm not about to pay attention to the flippin' wire. So I was scrolling down all the movies that they have on HBO, and I was like, hey, yo, It Chapter 2, the first one is super dope, I love that. Let's get down on this one. It's almost 3 hours long. I bet you any money they're gonna go into a bunch of backstory, they're gonna give us a crap ton of blood, and it's gonna be an awesome, awesome time. And I was right, except for like the last thing. It wasn't an awesome time. There was a pretty decent amount of blood. It wasn't like extremely gory, but it was there. The backstory that they had that should have been done in Chapter 1 also was there. I don't know, they had flashbacks to when they were kids as adults, and it's like, why didn't you guys just do this back then? They do try to explain it in the film, because like one of them stays in Derry, and because they stayed in Derry, they remember everything, but like the further you get away from the town, like the more you don't remember. But that's me painstakingly like rationalizing to try and make sense of what the hell this movie was. The term theme park ride, the term like amusement park, definitely came into mind like when I was watching this. And I know that's been used to describe superhero movies more than anything, but no, this was definitely like an amusement park. And not even in a cool way, like it was so fucking exhausting, bro. The movie has like 3 openers, like 3 sets of scenes that the movie could have started on and then just moved forward from there, but because they crammed all 3 of these kind of like opening happenings, I was very confused at first right off the bat. And then maybe about like 40 minutes into the movie, like you get like this whole get together of them being adults and all happy and buddy. And I'm like, isn't this it? I know they're paying homage to the first movie, and I think it happens in the book where they're like eating dinner together and then like eyes and all this other junk starts popping out in the food. But there's something about the way they did it in that terrible cheesy TV movie that kind of makes it work. In It Chapter 2, not only do you get like a weird dream sequence, you get like a little horrific social commentary thing, and then you get like a flashback scene, and then everyone's a fucking adult. Like, we're here for the adults already. Like, you guys have told It Chapter 1 already. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it was very incoherent with how the plot moved along. Like, once everybody got together, it kind of like hit a stride, it kind of hit a certain pace, but at that point, I was already like done. I was like, dude, this is supposed to be a scary movie, and I don't even know what the hell I'm watching. Like, the movie evolves in the worst ways. You get me? It goes through all those opening scenes. You get a little bit of like familiar family happiness stuff, and then you go into like this crazy, ridiculous amounts of like Stephen King horror, where they're like, yo, you need to go find a specific artifact from your childhood and all this other shiz in order for you to beat it somehow. And for whatever the hell reason, they have to do it alone, because how else would you scare a group of people other than, you know, like a huge ass monster or a collective hallucination I was almost going to say hallucination, but hallucination at a Chinese restaurant, because that's where they had that. And they do both things. Like, if you've seen the original It, if you've read the book, like, he turns into that thing. That definitely happens, but the lead up to it, the build up, the jump scares, them being alone and fighting their artifacts and going through all this bullcrap felt exactly like that, dude. It was just like bullcrap. I don't even know why they made It Chapter 2 as long as they did. If anything, they should have just made the first movie longer, put that stuff in that movie, and then come back to the characters as flippant adults and then tell that part of the story. Or maybe they should have just like scrapped it all together and actually told the story the way it is in the book. Like, I haven't read the book, but from what I heard, it jumps back and forth freely, where it's like, it'll be a chapter or two with the kids, and then it's a chapter or two with those same kids as adults. And I just feel like if this had been an HBO series or something on Starz or Showtime, they could have gotten away with that. But yeah, I'll stop bad-mouthing It Chapter 2. It was numbing, honestly. It was just like a cacophony of jump scares and blood and noise, and when I was done with it after the movie, I can definitely feel the noise difference after taking my headset off. So if you haven't seen It Chapter 2, I suggest watching it just for that. The experience of it. It's not a good movie, but I'm not entirely upset that I watched it either. So moving on to our final thing before I end the podcast, because this one's actually going pretty long. I'm happy about it, dude. I feel like I say this every episode, but I've been having a lot of fun doing these, but this one specifically, I don't know what the heck it was. I don't know what the heck it is, man. I'm just like eager to talk, eager to tell people about things, eager to talk about Westworld. Okay, so let's end with Westworld. 6 and 7, dudes. Episode 6 and 7 of, I was gonna say chapter 3 of season 3. Flipping It, bro. It's in my mind, man. They better not make it chapter 3. Well, anyway, episode 6 is pretty wild because it picks up with, like, William, and more than anything, it's about him coming to terms with his demons, all the stuff that he's done, and mainly the loss of his family and how he directly had a part in losing them. And it was a trippy-ass episode because they sat him as an Ed Harris. Is it Ed Harris? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's his name. We'll just call him that. I'll fix myself later if I'm wrong. Well, anyway, like, Ed Harris is sat in a room with a bunch of other, Ed Harrises throughout his entire life. Well, not him specifically, but, like, William, the character. So he sees a young version of himself, he sees a child version, an older version, and then, like, a tuxedo version of himself. As well as James Delos, which is the first guy that they try to do the human host hybrid with, but that, I don't know why he's there. And I don't know why that one guy that was trying to find the Valley Beyond be the guy who escorts, William to meet pretty much himself. And I love the way that he deals with it, because he straight up beats the shit out of himself. He literally kills the past, because he can't be holding on to any of that with what he has to do or what role he has to play in whatever Dolores' game is currently. And speaking of Dolores, the Halores, the Hale Dolores, in this episode, in episode 6, there's this whole parallel where William is destroying everything, right? But she's latching on to stuff. She's trying to not necessarily create a new life, but live as Charlotte Hale. And I don't know whether it was the original Dolores or Sirach that ends up exploding her car with both her husband and kid, which is really messed up, but it results in a divergence where she's, like, doing her own thing. Like, I don't know what her motives are anymore, but she's definitely not a part of OG Dolores' plan anymore. In episode 7, bro, oh, geez, man, like, we get all of this backstory on Caleb. We figure out that the previous version of Rehoboam is not destroyed, and Sirach's brother is not dead. The outliers that they have and are trying to re-educate are all frozen near Solomon. They're, like, kept underground with, like, this other AI that is schizophrenic because the guy who made it is schizophrenic. And they keep him down there because, like, if they can't re-educate him, they're like, well, they have to go then. If they can't fit within the system that we control, then they just have to be completely out of it. We learn that Caleb not only was re-educated or reinstituted or whatever you want to call it, brainwashed, he was brainwashed with the wrong story. So like he goes through this whole scene where he's remembering things and he's remembering being, brainwashed. And he gets this certain memory of like him kind of being heroic and his friend being heroic and stuff, right? But then they do a double twist. Apparently Sirach's company, I almost said Tricell. It's not called Tricell, it's called Incel? Is it called Incel? Holy shit, dude. No, excuse me, might be. It's called Insight, not Incel. Why was I thinking that? It's called Insight. Well, guess what the hell the incels at Insight were doing? They were using these outliers that were re-educated to take out other outliers. And the way they kept them in check is by messing with their memories and their emotions, because all the people in the Westworld universe have this thing called a drip. So it's like an implant on the top of your mouth, and there are these like tabs, they look like wafers almost, that you put on the top of your mouth that regulate everything. In the same set of scenes of Caleb going through this like double realization, they ask Solomon, which is like the AI that's down there, in this remote location, which I have no idea where it actually is. I think it's like Sonora, Mexico or something like that. And that gets me excited as hell because it had the first season of Westworld's feel, like the landscape. So I'm waiting for this to turn from like a cyberpunk aesthetic to Wild West cyberpunk aesthetic. And I think we're getting there because Bernard and Stubbs end up finding William like during, episode 7. Because they're trying to figure out what the hell Dolores is up to. They're like, well, we need to go to specific places to gather data in order for us to figure out what the hell she's doing. Like we got to figure out how to flip and stop her. And when they go to one of the places for the data, which is one of these re-education places, they find William. But he's like not happy about it at all, Like he then finds out that Stubbs is also a host. And he's like, straight up, I know what I gotta do now. I gotta take out all of these hosts. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm still alive. And that's kind of where like they leave that trio, but not before dropping the bomb that Dolores' plan is Caleb. The way she wants the world to end is by his hand. And they went to Solomon to try to get a strategy to fight the current structure, the current system, in order for them to pull that off. We only have one more episode this season, and they are not going to wrap everything up this season, I can guarantee you that, but that makes me excited for season 4 and then possibly up to 6, because I think that's what they have mapped out story-wise, is up to 6 seasons. My guess is that the season finale might end on a cliffhanger where they're about to end humanity or they're about to end the world and it just kind of cuts to black type deal. I feel like they're going to do something along those lines, or they are actually going to end the world and then Dolores' actual plan is revealed, because I feel like this is just one step into instating hosts as an actual species on Earth. But yeah, I'm gonna digress for sure. I think that's gonna do it for this week's episode. Episode 5. I think I said 4 in the beginning, and if I did, I apologize, but this is very much episode 5. I've had a lot of fun rambling on about all of this stuff that's going on, even though there's not much going on at all. But yo, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. You're awesome. This was a longer one, so you're a beast for that. But yeah, I'm Pika Punch. You can find me on Twitter at Pika Punch. You can at me for the podcast at Podcast Punched. And then you can find me over on, I was about to say Twitter again, Twitch at twitch.tv/Pika_punch. Again, thank you very much. You guys are amazing. I will see you in the next episode.